Hello everyone, this is Renee Novak with Blessed by Cards. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I am here today to share with you a technique called the shutter window. And these are the two cards that I created, and this has a little belly band on it which slides right off. And then your shutter card, when it opens, it reveals the inside of your greeting. So if you can see that, when you slowly open it, the shutter on the inside moves. And so this is the new designer series paper in the January to June 2021 True Love, and all I did was created the colors by using the Stampin' Blend brush with some of our unique Stampin' Up! Colors. This one I just put together as my sample prototype just to put it together to see if I could get some directions written down. But again, it's the same concept. And so this one's using the same designer series paper. And on my first sample, I used one side of the True Love designer series, and then this is the flip side. And I got, again, these colors by using the Calypso Coral, Highland Heather, and Coastal Cabana inks. I used the new Stampin' Blending brush, and on the inside, because this was a little bit darker paper, I actually used the sponge daubers, but it's the same colors, the Coastal Cabana, the Highland Heather, and the Calypso Coral. So now I just thought I would kind of walk through this card step by step with you for directions purposes. So the very first thing you're going to need to do is cut your solid cardstock, whatever you choose, into a sheet that is 7 by 10. And I first started out with my paper in portrait position, which would be the 8.5 at the top, and I cut it at 7. And that gave me a strip that was 1.5 by 11 that I eventually used as my belly band on my card. And so I just kind of set this aside, and then I switched my paper and cut it at 10 to create a 7 by 10 inch card base. The next thing you want to do is to, in landscape position, which would be the 10-inch side at the top, you want to score at 2.5 on both sides of your cardstock. And that, when you fold and burnish it, is what gives you the gatefold card look. Okay, so that's 2.5 on both ends. So then the next thing you would want to do is, after you fold and burnish it, is to decorate your panels. Now, if you can decorate it using layered cardstock, which I did on this one. I layered a solid, couple solids, and then I did also some designer series paper. But on this one, I just did the designer series paper. So it's totally your creative, whatever feels best for you. But if you are going to use a designer series paper, you'll want to make sure that your design is in the vertical position, because it's going to go this way on your card panel. Okay, so the next step in creating this card is to actually create the shutters. And you're going to choose two pieces of solid that matches. You can do this in designer series paper. If you do it in solid, you want it to match your card base. And so these two pieces measure 2.5 by 6 3/8. I'm sorry, 2.5, 6 3/8. And what you want to do with this one is, in portrait position, you want to score at 1/2 an inch on one side of both pieces. And you're going to fold and burnish those, and that is what's going to become your shutter. This portion of the card right here, the shutter. Okay, and so that's a 2.5 by 6 3/8, scored at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish both of those pieces. And then if you're going to decorate on the outside, either with stamped images or with designer series paper, now would be the time to do that. If you want to save a little bit on designer series paper, because technically this would measure like 1 3/4 by 6 1/8. But if you, since the designer series paper cuts evenly 6 inches, if you wanted to do a 1 5/8 by 6 inches, that works as well. That is what I did on this one, and it looks just fine. A little bit more of a border, but save a little bit on paper. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do after you have decorated your shutters is you want to use a very heavy, strong glue, either liquid, tear and tape, or the Stampin' Seal Plus. And this is going to be adhered to the inside of your card, and you want to make sure that your flap, this is where you're going to put the adhesive, and you want to make sure that that is actually on the outside of your flap, because that's what's going to pull your shutter in and out. Okay, so you don't want to put it here, because then when you open it, it's not going to go anywhere. So it needs to be adhered to the outside flap. So for this one here, and then for this one, just let me go ahead and score that real quick. You want this one to be over here. Now this is where it's important if you have a patterned paper, because if you have a paper that's going up and down, you don't want to, you know, have this one going this way, because that, unless that's the look you want, you just have to make sure that your paper is the same. And likewise, if it's an up and down pattern, like if you flipped it upside down, it would be upside down. Pay attention to that, because one side is going to have to go here. So this would be your designer series paper, and then the other one's going to go on this one. So if you put your paper on both of them to be this way, this is not going to work, because your shutter will be upside down. So just pay attention to that if you have pattern specific designer series paper. These will be your shutters, and you want to adhere those so they go in and out. Okay, and again, I'll bring in this one so you can see I adhere them to the outsides. Okay, so the last piece, or the last portion, one of the last portions, would be your actual window pane. Okay, and I'm going to bring in my window pane piece to show you. It is 8 by 3.5, and you want to score it at 1/2 inch on both ends, because this is what you're going to fold, and it's going to go right here on the middle section of the inside of your card. So you want to make sure you use very strong tape. And remember, you will already have your shutters in place. So when you put this down, make sure that the shutter is in between the flap. You don't want to glue this down, because when you open it up, it won't slide out. You want it to slide in and out easily. And I'll show you again on this one what I'm talking about. So if you had it stuck down here, this piece wouldn't be able to freely move. So you want that to be able to freely open to reveal your greeting on the inside. So before you glue it down, you'll want to create your window. And I just picked one of the stitch dies from the nestled dies, and I just kind of lined it up to see where the center was, and I put a little bit of washi tape on the inside and ran it through the big shot so that I could create a window effect. And when you do that, that little piece is cut out in the middle. So you can use washi tape, and you can stick it, because this will be punched out. Okay, and so that'll give you your window. And then if you're going to stamp on the inside card directly, I did it on this one directly on the card. You just go ahead and stamp on the card stock, the actual card base. But if you use black or another color that you don't want to, you're going to have to add a piece of white paper behind that window. So you'll want to do that before you adhere this down, just kind of laying it down. And You can stamp this in the Stamparatus if you want to, or you can just stamp it straight through the window. It is your choice. So again, if you're going to not stamp directly on your card base, you need to add another piece. Do it before you attach your window sheet, okay? And so that is the window sheet that I had placed this evenly and cut it out. Okay, and then the last thing that you need to do is to decorate your belly band. Now you can, if you have designer series paper that you want to add here, or if you want to do a stamped image, I just stamped these sweet little strawberries in black, but you could stamp anything you want. And then when your card, and I would recommend that you don't do your belly band till the very end, because what's going to happen is all these layers are going to give you a poofed up little bit of card. I'm just sticking them in here because I didn't glue them down so that you'll know what I'm talking about. If you do it ahead of time before these layers are in here, your belly band's going to be too tight. So what you want to do is just lay your belly band face down, and if it has a specific pattern, just be aware of that. Just lay it down and kind of evenly place it on both sides, and then just kind of fold it over so that it kind of meets. And you don't want it to be too tight, but you do want it to be snug enough. So I did not use a scoring tool. I just kind of used my fingers, and then I did my bone folder so that I could crease it while it was actually on here. And then again, you want to put some really heavy adhesive on this strip so that when you slide it on and off, it won't come apart. So let me bring this one back in. This is my belly band that I created, and I just stamped some of the, or used the brush again, the Stampin' Brush, to bring in the colors that I used on here. That's Coastal Cabana, Highland Heather, and Calypso Coral. And I attached my little sentiment and my fancy on top of my band, and then you just kind of slide it on there, and then you can put it down like this if you need to, and then that's your belly band. And this one I actually used the inside piece that I cut out on here, and again just kind of layered it up, and at the very end is when I made sure that I wrapped it around so that it was going to fit on there snugly but not too tight. So that is my technique. It is called the shutter card technique, and I will have directions for you, and you can follow along, or you can create your own, whatever you feel is the best. So I hope that you have a very good day. Create something wonderful and share with others. So until next time, be blessed. Thanks. Bye.